We have sent Voyager 1 into the freezing vacuum of interstellar space, billions of miles away. We have mapped the distant stars, and we claim to understand the birth of black holes. But there is a terrifying irony. The very ground you are standing on right now is a complete mystery. Modern science knows more about the edge of the universe than what lies just a few miles beneath our feet. In the freezing wilderness of Russia, humans spent 20 years digging the deepest hole in human history. They wanted to touch the unknown. But 12 kilometers down, the drills stopped. Not because of a mechanical failure, but because they unlocked something that was never meant to be disturbed. They didn't just find rocks. They found a gateway. This gateway was born during the peak of the Cold War, a time when the world's superpowers were not just racing to conquer the moon, but were also fighting to conquer the depths of the Earth. In May 1970, on a remote peninsula in the Soviet Union, a team of top-secret scientists set up a massive drilling rig. Their goal sounded completely impossible: to drill as deep as possible into the Earth's crust and reveal secrets hidden for billions of years. For 2 decades, their heavy steel drills tore through solid granite, fighting against crushing pressure and rising heat. Year after year, they pushed deeper into the dark unknown, completely unaware that each mile they moved closer to the center of the planet, they were stripping away the protective layers of our world. By 1989, the drill had reached a staggering depth of 12,262 meters, making it the deepest artificial point on Earth. At this unimaginable depth, the rules of geology began to shatter, and the scientists found things that completely defied modern science. They expected the rock to be solid and dry, but instead, they discovered fractured stone completely saturated with water flowing deep inside the Earth's crust. Even more shocking, they detected microscopic fossils of ancient single-celled organisms perfectly preserved 9 miles below the surface, where life was supposed to be impossible. But the most terrifying discovery was the temperature, because the heat inside the hole had skyrocketed to a blistering 180 degrees Celsius, twice as hot as anyone had predicted. As the extreme heat began to melt their drill bits, the team knew they could not push any deeper without destroying their equipment. Desperate to understand what lay just ahead, the lead scientists decided to lower a highly sensitive, heat-resistant microphone down into the narrow abyss. They expected to record the natural tectonic movements of the continental plates or the deep grinding sounds of shifting stone. Instead, as the microphone reached the bottom of the 12-kilometer drop, the speakers in the control room filled with something that paralyzed every man in the room. It was not the sound of geological pressure, but a chaotic wall of noise that sounded like millions of human voices screaming in pure agony, trapped forever in the burning dark. The terrifying audio recording sent a shockwave of absolute horror through the underground research facility. Experienced engineers who had spent decades working with heavy machinery dropped their headsets in panic, while others walked out of the site, refusing to ever return. A local rumor spread like wildfire, claiming that the scientists had literally drilled a hole straight through the roof of hell. The Soviet government tried desperately to control the narrative, classifying the audio tapes under the highest level of security and forcing every worker to sign strict non-disclosure agreements. But the damage was already done, because the psychological toll on the remaining crew was too heavy to ignore, and the once celebrated scientific miracle suddenly felt like a cursed mistake that needed to be erased. In 1992, shortly after the collapse of the Soviet Union, the government abruptly ordered the entire project to be permanently shut down. Officially, the officials blamed a sudden lack of funding and the chaotic political climate of the new nation. But the local workers whispered a much darker truth, claiming that the team had encountered something so hostile and unexplained down there that they were forced to flee. The massive drilling tower was carefully dismantled, and the entire facility was abandoned to the harsh elements of the Arctic wilderness. Today, the once bustling scientific camp lies in complete ruins, completely deserted by humans, leaving behind only crumbling concrete structures and rusty metal scraps that guard the darkest secret on Earth. If you travel to the abandoned ruins today, you will find a thick, rusted metal cap placed over the exact spot where the Earth was torn open. This heavy steel lid is secured directly into the concrete floor, held down by a ring of massive industrial bolts that have rusted over decades. There are no warning signs, no official plaques, and no explanation given to the rare travelers who stumble upon this lonely site. Local legends say that the bolts were not put there to protect people from falling inside the narrow shaft, but to ensure that whatever the scientists awakened down there can never find a way to crawl out to the surface. It stands as a silent, terrifying monument to the day that human curiosity went too far and hit a solid wall of absolute horror. To this day, the debate over what truly happened in the deep silence of that borehole divides the world. Skeptics and modern geologists argue that the screaming voices were nothing more than an urban legend, an internet hoax created by mixing radio static with Hollywood sound effects. They insist that the project was shut down simply because drilling through molten rock at 180 degrees Celsius was technologically impossible at the time. Yet, thousands of people believe that science is merely covering up a truth that is too terrifying for the public to handle. The official audio files remain locked away in deep government archives, and the true nature of that final recording continues to haunt researchers who know that some doors, once opened, can never be closed again. As the rust continues to eat away at that heavy metal cap, the Kola Superdeep Borehole remains a chilling reminder of our limits. We spent billions of dollars to build massive telescopes, staring into the infinite deep of space, hoping to find answers among distant galaxies. Yet we remain completely blind to the dark secrets buried right beneath our own feet, waiting in the deep silence of our own planet. Perhaps some mysteries are meant to stay buried in the dark, and perhaps human curiosity should have its boundaries. The next time you look down at the solid ground, remember that just 12 kilometers below, the Earth is still hiding a secret that science could not explain, and humanity was too terrified to face.